14 WILI and 95.3 FM presents Hometown Threads, a closer look at our community and the people that make it go. Every week, you'll hear uplifting stories from our local businesses and our neighbors. Now, here's our host for Hometown Threads, Keith C. Rice.
All right, welcome into episode 21 of Hometown Threads on 14 WILI, 95.3 FM, and Willimantic Today Facebook. Of course, Hometown Threads comes your way every Tuesday on the radio from 5:05 to 5:30 on WILI. And then Willimantic Today can look for it probably like Wednesday evenings. I usually share it from my personal page, Keith C. Rice. And then it's pinned atop the page thanks to RJ and the admin team over at Willimantic Today. And you can watch this show. It'll be up there for a good week, pinned atop the Willimantic Today Facebook page. Hometown Threads comes your way. Courtesy of our friends at Liberty Bank. Be community kind. Big thanks to Liberty Bank and their local branches, Gateway Commons, West Main Street. That branch, big shout out to my wife, Marianne Gargoni, who's the manager there. Of course, right across the street from the radio station, 679 Main Street. Hello to Angela Smart and her team. And then Route 195 in Mansfield, the Liberty Bank up there, Carrie Small and her crew. Big thanks to Liberty Bank. Be community kind. Thank you. Thank you to J. Matt Rupar. Matt, wave to the camera. J. Matt Rupar, our producer, running the controls here. And I just wanted to thanks to everyone who's made this show possible, which has been on the air since mid-November. And our guest here, you recognize this face here, Willimantic Police Chief Paul Hussey. And should I call you Chief? Should I call you Sir? Should I call you Sir Paul? Or
Paul will work out fine. That's fine with me. It's usually what I come to at home anyway.
It's a pleasure to have Paul and I go way back. And we ran into each other Saturday at National Drug Take-Back Day over on Gilson Square, which is something we do twice a year in this community. And when I saw Paul, the chief, drive up, I'm like, that's my guest. That's my guest for this week. And I'm honored to have him in here. And then we got talking Saturday about, he's a big fan of WILI and Hometown Threads. And he brings up a good point. He's listened to many shows. And, even though the show's been on since mid-November, there's a lot of people still confused on the premise of the show. Right. You hear I have a lot of longtime business owners on, former business owners in our community. But I also have names that people know or familiar with around here, like yourself. You're not a business owner; you're the police chief. So, anybody who's got a great story to share, business owner or just a household name like yourself. That's what Hometown Threads is all about. It's only 25 minutes, so we better get going here. Yeah. But I grew up with Paul. We were kind of sharing some childhood stories the other day, going back to Little Pal basketball at the YMCA, right?
Semco, yep.
Semco. Now you were on Semco, but I think I was on the broadcaster.
Oh, possibly, yep. I know that
Coach Homsky was my coach.
Lesko was my coach.
You had Lesko
and Mr. Turner.
Mr. Turner, yeah.
Yeah, and after that, I played midget football, and that was fun.
You were a pretty good athlete, weren't you?
Yeah, I was all right. I worked out at the Y. I was an Olympic weightlifter for a while. In my teenage years, I was ranked top 2 in the country for about 3 or 4 years, and then.
What's that, top 2 in the country? Well, really?
Yeah, I went to the AU Junior Olympics like 4 times. I won a national event in '88, USWF national champion at 165 pounds, and then I wrestled for. Brian Crudden, who pretty much molded me, or he was one of the many people that molded me, like a lot of coaches and teachers.
Future guest on Hometown Threads. He should be coming in the next few weeks. Yep.
Super guy. I wrestled for him, and I did track for the late Bob Haddad, and those were all great experiences. Kept me disciplined, and those guys were fantastic with me. They put up with a lot of my quirks when I was younger.
See, I forgot now. I just turned 51.
I'm 51 as well.
Okay, so
I will
we're the
be
same
52 in July though.
Wow, so class of 90?
89.
Okay, so class of just a year of a year behind you in that. But so you must have wrestled with my cousin Jeff Bennett.
Yes.
Because Jeff was on that. You guys had a talk about a stat team.
Yeah,
wow.
Class of '89, we won the L championship, and so when I saw the basketball team in recent years winning it, kind of brings you back. And I see Paul Martin out there coaching and stuff, and so we were double L runners up the year before, and so we had kind of a '85 was the year before that won a state championship, and then for Brian the years just kind of rolled on. he started winning more and more. He's actually, I believe, inducted into the High School Wrestling Hall of Fame. I wasn't as good a wrestler as I was a weightlifter, but I.
What was your favorite sport growing up? Wrestling? I mean, you ran. What did you enjoy doing the most?
I think I enjoyed wrestling practice the most. It challenged me mentally and physically, and I enjoyed being around Brian and his leadership. And a lot of alumni came back. It was like this really tight knit family.
Yeah.
You know, where weightlifting's an individual sport, and although I had a coach and Steve Alrado, the late Steve Alrado, was also a national caliber teenage weightlifter. Him and I went to the. In '88, we got invited to go to train at the Olympic Training Center.
Really?
Yeah. But you're out there alone, and you only get 6 attempts, 3 in each category, and where wrestling kind of it was challenging. There's a lot more people in the room. You're not the only guy out there. You are the only guy out there on the mat when it's your turn up, but you have a lot of support and backing. You know, so I really enjoyed high school wrestling. That was in track and field. I did shot, discus, and I ran a little bit, just the sprinting events occasionally, not all the time. But
it was a shock having Bob Haddad passing away. I knew he wasn't doing well the past few years, and I stay in contact with Rob. And I know Rob's got a younger brother, Steve, and I think they're going to have a celebration of life in late June. So we hope to have, Rob lives down in Atlanta now, so we hope to have him on later down the road. Hometown Threads here on 14 WILI 95.3 FM and Willimantic Today Facebook, brought to you by Liberty Bank, Be Community Kind. Episode 21. We're here with the police chief, the Willimantic Police Chief, Paul Hussey, joining us. And let's just go back to, we're talking about our early years playing sports, growing up together. Tell us what it was like besides sports growing up in our fine community.
So we were talking earlier about paper routes, and so I had a bunch of my friends had paper routes, and I would take them over from time to time when they needed a break. And I remember doing one in your neighborhood up in Adams Heights.
We grew up a couple roads from
maybe
each other.
less than a mile.
Let's see, Card Street, Adams Heights.
Yeah. And there was also another friend of mine, Rob Crane, had one on Main Street. So, you know, I see like kind of the evolution, what's going on Main Street now in comparison to the old days. And, you know, you had Lamort's newsstand.
Oh, yeah.
You had Jim's hot dog stand.
Right.
You had the YMCA was open back then. Thursday nights they had sidewalk sales. You know, there was.
Your memory's much better than me.
Yeah. I remember when Woolworths was there, and you know.
Hurley's across the street.
Yeah, Stop and Shop was Barker's.
Yeah, we could go on all day.
Yeah.
I had Rick Nassif on one of my episodes here. Yeah.
But it's good to see now too. You know, when I first came back after college and in the military. It's good to see now that we're opening up more stuff and we're
coming alive again.
Yeah, and it's good to seeing a lot of empty storefronts. I remember the book Ziesing's books and Gingrish's shoes.
My goodness, we can just go right now.
Yeah.
And you know, look, no offense to what's going on here now today in 2023, but you and I being the same age, I'm going to say it was a much more family-oriented time. May have been the generation, not just the area, and it's coming alive again. But you know, you and I grew up. It seemed to seem much more family-oriented back then. But as I say, you're starting to feel it again now. And
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I live in Lebanon now, but my roots are definitely here. I came here when I was 6 months old. My father took the job as a police chief here in the city.
So his father was the police chief.
So although I wasn't born here, I feel like this is my native
same here.
Town, you know what I mean? And so it's
So you went away for a few years, right? Because we talked about you and I both moved away for a bunch of years. You went to school in Vermont. Tell us about that experience and coming back here.
Yeah, so I don't know how I did it, but I got into Norwich University in Vermont. It's one of the oldest private military colleges in the world. Founded by a guy who separated from West Point, and you know, a few 100 years ago, 1819, and I ended up graduating there with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. During that time frame, I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and when I got out, I was looking at my options. I was a Marine reservist. Do I commission in the Marine Corps? Do I take a job as in law enforcement? And I was living. I was working at the school, Kramer Middle School.
Oh yeah, we went there together. Yeah, sure.
So anyway, in doing that, I was taking a lot of police exams and debating whether to go back to the military. And I got approached by some officers that used to work for my dad, and they asked me why I hadn't applied here. And I really didn't know why. I just kind of, and I thought to myself, you know, and they Tony Mamunis and John Wackman both convinced me, like, this is a way for you to give back to your community. This is a way for you to, if you see things and you want them changed, this is your chance to do it.
And what were you doing at the time again?
I was a security guard at the at Kramer.
At Kramer, okay, yeah.
And I truly enjoy working with youth, and it was a great way to set an example for youth and kind of work with the community and stuff. But obviously, with my BA in criminal justice, I wanted to put that to work and put it to use. And now I'm finally doing it as chief. many years later, but
so
as
what's
a
your
patrolman, not so much. But
exactly. So what's your reaction when they approach you? Hey, think about taking the test. What did you say to them?
At first, I was a little apprehensive about it, and then so there was the Law Enforcement Council. You checked off boxes, and there was like 12 departments involved in that, and I just wasn't checking Willimantic for whatever reason. And I finally, my second time taking the test, I checked it. I had my interview here, and kind of funny because then I got offers from New London, Stonington, and everybody kind of came at once.
They wanted you, yeah.
So, so I thought to myself, you know what? If I want to make a difference anywhere, if I want to feel whole, if I want to feel like I'm going, it's not about the pay. I know, like a lot of us.
Same thing with radio.
You're not gonna be rich being a policeman. But it's what helps you emotionally, what makes you want to come to work every day. You gotta be one of those guys who wants to answer the call. You gotta have that kind of drive and want to work with people. So I wanted to work with people, and it hasn't been a dull moment since. But
I'm sure you got stories, and some you can't tell, some you can. But anyway, and if we have time, I'd like to hear maybe some of those. So start thinking now. But I gotta be honest. When the news came down that Paul Hussey was going to be our new police chief, and I think it was September of 2020, right?
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the paper going, yes, I know that guy. And that's a perfect, what a great decision. And I know I want to learn how you worked your way up the ranks and all that, because I know nothing about the police force. But I was thrilled, and I even posted on my Facebook page, I know this guy, what a great move for Willimantic. We're so excited. Now tell us, okay, you get. When did you begin on the police force here in Willimantic?
So I started the academy in May of '96, and got on patrol shortly after that. We didn't have as many. We didn't have as long an FTO program, field training program, so it was like 3 weeks. Hey kid, you're out on the road, figure it out kind of thing. Now there's a mandated 10-week thing, which I, wish I had. I was a little nervous the first few months on the job. Then after about 4 or 5 years, we starting up some specialized units. We started a Special Operations Group, or otherwise known as SWAT, but we call it the Specialized Operations Group, and starting to do things a little more safer in terms of serving search warrants and that sort of thing. And then 4 or 5 years after that, started up a canine program, and this is when Anita and Ernie,
So he's been on The Neighborhood, the show that follows Hometown Threads.
Yeah.
You've been on with Ernie and Anita, and you brought your dog in here at one point, a few years ago?
Back in probably 07, 06, and they were great supporters. And then went on to become a trainer and expanded the program. We have a dog on every shift now. They're trained in patrol and narcotics detection. They do it right here.
So you were doing all this during your time on the force?
Okay. Some of it on my own time. And I was a field training officer, vice president of the union at one point, and then within the Special Operations Group, I was taking leadership roles, and at one point was.
So were you thinking in the back of your mind, there's a chance I may want to be police chief, or they just sprung it on you one day?
Kind of. That's a funny story too. No, I never really had an aspiration to do that. I honestly enjoyed the excitement of the road. So I did 21 years on the road as a beat patrolman, and working a dog as well. I worked 3 different canines, and I was having a lot of fun. And then I had to grow up, right? So I had to kind of start looking at my future. I had kids starting to go to college. A daughter that was in nursing up at Rivier in New Hampshire, a daughter at URI, and I said, you know what, I got to start. My son is in high school at the time. We didn't do that right. They were all 5 years apart, so I'm still paying for one of them now. But anyway, long story short, I took the lieutenant's exam, put together a resume and a packet. I had already made, I had my national accreditation for canine trainer, and I had all the Special Operations Group, and had made a lot of big decisions, command decisions they had seen. And so anyway, I made it. I was number 2 on the test. Some people retired. I ended up being the patrol commander.
Wow.
for 3 years, and then Rob Rosado went to Meriden, went back to his hometown.
Now, when Rob moves back to Meriden, remember this. You must have known. Okay, I think it's coming, right? At that point.
Yeah, I was kind of nervous about it. I didn't know what really whether I Rob had kind of pumped me up, and I think he gave me a lot of exposure. I didn't know he was leaving, but in the last year he was kind of.
Because that happened kind of quickly, didn't it?
Yeah.
He wasn't chief for a while, right?
He was having me. Usually there's an interim, in there where the deputy was actually, sitting in his spot.
Who was the
He
deputy
left,
at the time?
Bob Buckner.
Okay.
Wealth of knowledge, super guy. And so what ends up happening is I don't realize this. Rob's sending me to different trainings. He's sending, to leadership stuff, and then he's having me go to all these meetings, and I'm thinking, what's he trying to do, And then after he left, Buckner comes in my office, shuts the door, and that's a bad sign when somebody shuts the door and he says, "Hey,
I've had program directors do that to me.
you got to apply, you got to, And then I got endorsed by the union. Then I went ahead and had my.
Were you nervous at that point, going, "Oh my goodness"? They shut the door. They go, well, obviously they really wanted you. That's got to feel good.
Yeah, no, the support was there. That's great, but you gotta. I try to be a pretty humble person, and you kind of look at it. Boy, this is a big response, and probably one of the more controversial times to become a police chief. Outside of probably the '60s. So, but I thought to myself, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Who's I got to step up.
Who would have done it?
And so,
Yeah.
so anyway, we had I helped build all these things, the K9 program, special operations. We have a bike program, we have a really good field training program. We now have an embedded social worker. We've been moving forward with stuff too since I've been chief.
Look, I know you're very humble. You are. And this is one of the reasons why I can call you a friend. It's just a great guy. Look what you've done on your way to being police chief. That's some pretty good stuff.
So we just try to I was afraid all that might go away, you know what I mean, if someone else came in and saw things differently, you know what I mean. So I wanted to continue to promote those programs and then expand on some things that I couldn't change unless I was chief. So we I have some really good staff. I have an excellent command staff, and I have excellent sergeants and corporals, great leadership at the PD, and the guys out on the road, they really they do a great job, guys and gals.
Go ahead, name some of the guys and gals.
So Charles Miller is one of my lieutenants, and he handles the detective division, and Javier Mercado he's the patrol commander. Doug Lowe is my deputy chief, and Matt Solak is my admin lieutenant, and he is a phenomenal writer. He and Charles Miller as well. So they help me out with a lot of stuff. He does a lot of stuff with the academy, and we actually do some training with the academy as well. They've set up a new law enforcement council academy because there's a lack of police right now.
Yeah, a lot of people either retiring or just don't want to join the force. Right?
Yeah,
that's why you guys are always hiring. That's what they were telling me over at National Drug Take Back Day.
Yeah, he's actually in charge of our recruitment and stuff, and we're constantly running like a constant loop of recruiting.
I could not do that physical test if I were to try out. I was talking with Detective King the other day. I was like, no way.
Yeah.
No way. I mean, maybe 5-10 years ago. I mean, I still like to run every now and then.
Yeah.
But they were explaining the test. And I'm not trying to downplay. If you want to, by all means, if you're a young lady or a young gentleman who has aspirations of joining the police force.
If you go on,
you got a great leader here.
Connecticut Post website, you'll see all the. So my wife drags me out to run all the time. So I'm always
checking. Does she?
I'm always checking to see if I'm within the time frame for my age group.
Are you still good?
I want to be down in the 40s, but I'm trying. You know what I mean? Body in motion stays in motion, kind of thing. But
we got the police chief here, Willimantic Police Chief Paul Hussey, with us on episode 21 of Hometown Threads on 14 WILI 95.3 FM, Willimantic Today Facebook. Brought to you by Liberty Bank. Be community kind. So take us through a day in the life of a regular. I know it's not 9 to 5. I'm sure your hours can vary, but take us through an average day in the life of the police chief.
Yeah. So typically I'm at work, somewhere between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. Some days earlier, depending on what meetings and so forth I have. But there's probably 50 emails a day to read and respond to. There's meetings, regularly scheduled meetings. We just got done budget season. We're almost done with budget season here, so it depends on the time of year. But and then we have our constant hiring going on. So I'm either trying to sit in on an interview panel and watch what the guys are doing, in terms of what we have for recruitment. But today was a day off, for instance, but I checked in on recruiting, what was going on with recruiting. I check in with patrol because we have emails that come back and forth on what happened over the weekend. And so I'm constantly checking on my guys too in case anybody's injured or hurt on the job. And then, there's stuff the town manager wants to see from me or meet with me about. The mayor.
Can we reopen the end of Riverside Drive here? Where they're,
I know.
My
I've
goodness.
had meetings on that as well.
I love Jim Rivers, but can we reopen this, please? There's a blind spot coming out here.
Yeah, and then there's events there's a whole thing with events now that we have, which is great. I think that's awesome. We
the Shabu stage and stuff.
Yeah. So we have a lot of events going on there. So I'm constantly checking on that to see how that goes. People come in for pistol permits, temporary liquor permits, all that kind of stuff, and I have to sign off on all that stuff.
So the majority of the emails you get, I think you know where I'm going. They generally are. It's got to be. I'm just guessing now. 85-25 complaints.
No, actually, it hasn't been a lot. A lot of it is people trying to sell me stuff.
85-15, I meant. Sorry,
yeah,
I can't do math.
Most of it, I would say 80% of it is people trying to sell me some kind of gear, the newest, greatest uniform thing, breaching tool, cars. Well, actually, we've been having trouble finding cars, but equipment for cars. Different kinds of video equipment.
No idiots trying to get you on talk shows, radio talk shows?
No, that's in person.
Actually, we text. Yeah, that's in person. We text now. No, but it's So I'm sure there's a variety of emails you get. Some must make you shake your head. Some you're like, okay, I'll get back to that person.
We try to respond. Believe it or not, the body-worn cameras have kind of alleviated a lot of civilian complaints because now everybody's got to be honest. Everybody's on camera. And I think it's become so commonplace. I don't even think they realize they're on camera, So that's actually been a tremendous help, and we're actually in the process right now of putting some more cameras throughout town in areas where we need them. Not ones that stop, take a picture of you going through a stop sign or anything like that. They're actually plate readers, and we've had some evading accidents, or some high-profile crimes where we want to know which direction you're leaving the city so we can kind of track down that individual.
And you're not on the road at all anymore, right? You're basically, you're being police chief is mainly office work?
I try to stay in my office, although my portable radio is on, and there's been a few occasions where I ended up at calls.
Oh, wow.
But I care about my guys, and I wonder, are they going to be safe? Are they going to, be okay to go home tonight?
Couldn't ask for a more caring person to be Willimantic Police Chief. I'm not just saying this because we grew up together and we're friends, but I can't tell you. I know I said it before earlier in the show when the announcement came down that you were going to be police chief. I was like, wow. I mean, I remember getting off the bus and kind of walking up Card Street, and you lived. I could picture the house, right?
Yeah, 48.
Now,
yeah.
Was it you or I know the McManuses? I think they still live there. Did you have the Doberman Pinschers or the McManuses?
Yeah, we had a Doberman. Yeah, we had a Doberman.
Okay, the Hussey family, I loved them, but walking by that house, my goodness, I would pray to God that Doberman wouldn't come running in. There was a friendly Doberman, but that Doberman, as a child, scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, Caesar. Yeah, that was one of my first childhood dogs. Yeah. We had another one after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
We could go back. We were telling stories before we did the show about the Chronicle route, and I got into trouble doing that because speaking of dogs running out,
oh yeah,
I'm gonna come clean here. Yeah, with the police chief. I was like 10 or 12 years old, but dogs that would come out and attempt to bite you.
Oh yeah.
I would not go to that house, and there was a handful of them. My father got so ticked at me because he couldn't believe. He says, "You didn't collect from these houses within a month."
Yeah.
He says, "I'm taking you." I said, all these houses had dogs that would come out and attack me, and I was scared to death to go collect money from that person because I thought the dog was going to come out flying at me.
Between the town line and Adams Heights where you lived, Lebanon town line, and there was a couple that had a German Shepherd, and I think I got bit
Great
3 or
Danes
4
too.
times.
There was Great Danes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Remember right on the line there, the Willimantic Lebanon line. Beautiful dogs.
My sister babysat there and got along with the dogs fine. Every time that dog saw a paper boy, forget it. That was like
and back
running
then,
for your life.
Back then, I mean, I'm sure it's different now. Well, there's no really Chronicle routes. I think it's all in the mail now. But oh man, I was like, my father. He goes, "Come on, we're going to these houses now." I go, "You gotta understand, my legs, my feet were gonna."
No, it's scary.
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
well, you're a bigger guy than me,
You're
but
a young guy,
All right, as we wrap it up here, our closing moments with the Willimantic Police Chief Paul Hussey. Give us any kind of story, I don't know, an entertaining story since you've been police chief that you could share with us before we close it out here? I know there's probably plenty you can't.
I'm trying to think now,
I know you've seen everything probably, but I don't mean to put you on the spot. We can always do this another time if it's...
I don't know. One thing I do want to say is that, listening to your show, and I saw a lot of parallels, I see Tom on, and his dad ran the same business. I saw the Lucas family. I see you here, I looked the very first episode. I listened to you and your dad on here, and I
Thank you.
Drew a lot of those parallels, and I'm truly honored to be on the show today, and I want to thank you. And I listened to a lot of the other shows,
But Hometown Thread's your favorite, right?
Right. I had to. This is the one I really wanted to come on. I normally don't volunteer.
I gotta tell you
right now, I did volunteer.
And I want to thank you for those closing words of bringing it back to family, because yes, I'd say that generally the thread on Hometown Threads has been, you've seen a lot of family businesses. Rick Nassif, we had Rick Schiller in from Schiller's last week. The Hussey family, his father was also a police chief. So, and that's what we got in this great community. A lot of family businesses, a lot of family connections, and this is our 21st show. Matt, you've been a part of every episode. I can't believe it's been since mid-November, but thank you for bringing that up, because it's really all about family in this community. So, Willimantic Police Chief Paul Hussey, our guest on episode 21 of Hometown Threads. Big thanks to J. Matt Rupar behind the scenes. Of course, the crew at Willimantic today. And Liberty Bank, be community kind. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
And that concludes another edition of Hometown Threads. Got a story for Keith? Reach out to him on Facebook by searching Keith C. Rice, or email him at krice@hallradio.net. Don't forget to tune in next week on 14 WILI and 95.3 FM, as well as the Willimantic Today page on Facebook.